an hour here to go. And then, one of my favorites. She is an investigative reporter par excellence. She's working now with Juno News, spent many decades with the Toronto Sun, and that would be the sensational Sue-Ann Levy. How you doing there, Sue-Ann?
I'm great. I'm great. And you're one of my favorites. We're kind of a
Oh,
tag team. We're kind of a tag team now, aren't we?
well, there you have it, folks. You're not mistaken. You have not tuned into the Mutual Admiration Society broadcast here, but that is Sue-Ann Levy. And first time I have interacted with Joe Anidjar. He is a freedom activist, and he's got a really big event coming up next week in Toronto's Christie Pitts. And it might be a 5 coupon ride, as they say on the Midway at the X, because it seems that monitoring the chatter, there's going to be a counter demonstration. Very quickly, Joe, what have you got up your sleeve a week from tomorrow?
Yeah, so September 13th, the movement I created last summer will be holding a Canada First Patriot rally at Christie Pitts at 1 p.m. This movement is focused on, to stop mass immigration and to start deportations. And the whole goal for this is to bring awareness, but not only awareness, but to let people know that it's okay to talk about these controversial topics. I mean, stopping the flooding of your country should never be a hot topic. It should be something that should be on the forefront, because it's. I still firmly believe that mass immigration has really put a damper in our country.
And, Joe, it shouldn't be a hot topic, but we're dealing with the loony woke left in Toronto. And I have seen some of the comments online. It is repugnant. We're pretty much free speech absolutists here, but the line, and there is a line, it's when you advocate harm or death to a person or a group of individuals. Right. And I see chatter, they're so open about it. We're going to bring our baseball bats to Christie Pitts, and it's not to hit a hard ball around the field there. It's just repugnant. I hope everything goes well. We'll be covering it next Saturday, Joe, and hopefully the police will maintain order, because I think you're going to get a ton of people, the Antifa types. Who knows, maybe the Hamas holes, it might be a slow day for them. They'll show up. And, it'd be nice if they would enforce the law, because I know your group isn't going to break the law. But as we've seen in Toronto with certain types on cold winter days, the police reimagine themselves as Uber Eats drivers and deliver coffee and Timbits. So let's hope we don't see a repeat of that. Now, before we get around the horn with our topics, folks, if you can contribute to this show, if you go on to YouTube, if you go on to the fabulous free speech platform of Rumble, and you make a super chat, if it's at least $5, you are guaranteed to have your comment read out loud by yours truly. So please, if you want to get your proverbial 2 cents worth in, well, it's only going to cost $5. Hey, inflation, and we're delighted to read it. So our first story is, very much a hot topic. I would say a white hot topic in Canada these days, given the amount of outrageous violence going on, and it is crime. And why don't we go to a video? Pierre Poilievre had a press conference. Can you imagine it, guys? Not only was I invited in, I got to ask a question. If I do that at a Carney event, I risk getting hit over the head by Uncle Fester as he arrests me for saying something impolite. So why don't we throw to the clip the question I asked Mr. Poilievre and his answer, and then we'll weigh in on it. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Poilievre, David Menzies with Rebel News.
Yes, David.
Mr. Poilievre, literally as we are speaking right now, just a little bit north of this hotel in Vaughan, a funeral is taking place for Abdul Aleem Faruqi. As you know, this is the 46-year-old father who paid the ultimate price in defending his family against home invaders. And yet yesterday, York Regional Police Chief Jim McSween, he held a news conference and he said a couple of things. One is that he wants citizens to comply during a home invasion and wait for police to arrive. He also said, quote, not to take matters into their own hands, end quote. It almost seems as though Chief McSween wants law-abiding citizens to be compliant victims. And of course, last week, in response to your comments about strengthening self-defense laws, the Justice Minister, Sean Fraser, stated on X, quote, this isn't the Wild West, it's Canada. Canadians deserve real solutions that make us safe, not slogans that inspire fear and chaos for Pierre's political survival, end quote. My question, Mr. Poilievre, is what is your response to the comments made by Chief McSween and Justice Minister Fraser?
Well, let's start with Sean Fraser's comments. He says it's not the Wild West out there. Oh, really? Maybe he should talk to Mr. Faruqi's family, this courageous and heroic man who came to the defense of his children, children who will be traumatized for the rest of their life by watching their father mercilessly killed by a criminal who should be in the slammer. And I hope that those children will, as much as their lives are going to be much more difficult, I hope that as they get older, they understand the true hero that their father was. I'm sure he didn't want to be defending his family. He wanted to be sleeping in bed like the rest of us, but he did it because of the instinct of a father to stand and fight and defend his home and his family from an invader. He shouldn't have had to, but liberal laws turn criminals free on our streets again and again and again. The Liberals have known this for years. Police officers, mayors, community groups have been crying out for an end to the Liberal catch and release criminal justice system. And yet Mark Carney, who's been Prime Minister for 5 months now, decided to go on vacation before ever reversing those laws, and made an even bigger mistake in appointing Sean Fraser as his Justice Minister, a man who first ruined the immigration system as the immigration minister under Trudeau, and then ruined the housing market as a housing minister. And to give him a third chance to screw something up, Carney has put Sean Fraser in charge of this. It's no wonder crime is raging out of control. My message is that we want to end the Wild West, lock up the criminals and throw away the key. 3 strikes, you're out. You 3 violent offenses, you go to jail and you never get out. And I'll add this. People have a right to defend their home. Your home is your castle. Someone comes into your house and threatens your family, you should have the right to take force against them to defend your family. That's what Conservatives propose with the Stand on Guard Act, and that is what we will fight for in this fall session.
So, Mark, let's start with you. I think it was a great response. I would correct Pierre Poilievre. It's kind of a Wild West in Canada right now. It's just that the guys with the black hats, the bad guys, they have the guns. The rest of us are expected, if you go by certain comments out there by those in law enforcement, those in the courts, we're supposed to cower and, I guess, hope for the best. Mark, where do you stand? Because in Florida, of course, if somebody responds with lethal force or near lethal force, as Jeremy McDonald did in Lindsay, standing up to a home invader at 3:20 in the morning with a crossbow that could take down a moose at 40 paces, this is not an issue. That citizen will not be charged. Why can't we have the same kind of laws here in Canada?
A very different culture between Florida. It truly is night and day. In fact, there was an incident just a few days ago in which an elderly person confronted a home invader, a gentleman who broke into his house and was set to burgle the place. And this individual heard what was going on. He was armed and he had a gun pointed at this intruder. And he called the police. This was an elderly homeowner. Okay, he wasn't about to get into any kind of physical altercation, but he had the great equalizer, you know, thanks to the Second Amendment in the United States. He pointed that firearm at that individual and called police, and the police showed up and they arrested the intruder. They didn't arrest the old guy with the gun, which is exactly what I think would have probably happened in Canada. I mean, even in the Wild West, as I understand it, David, people had the right. If somebody was attacking you, you had the right to attack them back. If they were shooting at you, if they came into your home, you had every right. And were in fact encouraged in many cases, as they have been in Florida, because we've had the governor here, Ron DeSantis, come out and say, look, if somebody breaks into your home, you can probably do us a favor by taking them out, save a bit of paperwork, having to charge somebody. They encourage people to defend themselves in this state. In Canada, the opposite is true. And for that, you have to really examine where these people's head are at. Why are they doing what they're doing? That, to me, is the most compelling question.
Yeah, that's what I love about states like Florida and Texas. It reminds me, Mark, of an old Western. I can't remember the title, but I remember the tagline, one of the best ones ever written. They came for gold, they got lead instead. Now, Sue-Ann, let me get into your mind here. It's 3 a.m. You're in your home. There's an intruder with a lethal force weapon. Contrary to what Chief McSween was lecturing people of York Region about 2 days ago, are you getting up from your bed and going, I better comply, and I better act with a proportionate use of force? No, I think you, like most reasonable people, adrenaline is coursing through your veins, and for your life and for the life of your loved ones, you go into mama bear mode. Am I right?
Absolutely, but we have an added defense mechanism here at Casa Levy. We have 3 terrorist dachshunds. And the smallest one is the biggest terrorist. So if anybody dares break in, she'll be at their ankles so quickly, nipping at them. I think, having dogs, it does help scare off intruders, as we've discovered. But, I am so dismayed with the culture in our country right now, where, innocent victims, it's all topsy-turvy, where the innocent victims are the perpetrators and the perpetrators are victims. And I have the luxury of living half the year in Florida, where Mark is, and I feel a heck of a lot safer down there than I do here. I don't think the police protect us one bit. I've seen that on the streets where they stand with their arms folded. Yep. While Hamas holes come after me, screaming. And I think our government has let us down. The police have let us down. I don't know. Like, it's just going to come to a point where people say enough is enough. And I think it's starting.
And Sue-Ann, it's not conjecture that the likes of you and Mark are safer in Florida. The stats indicate that. I think of John Lott's book, More Guns, Less Crime, and he shows statistically those states with more firearm ownership, more liberal firearms laws, guess what? They have less violent crime. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. If I'm a burglar and I'm going to go into somebody's home in the wee hours of the morning and he might have a loaded handgun in his night table, forget it. That's too risky. So there you have it. How about you, Joe? I mean, in the animal kingdom, and I would say it's the same in the human kingdom, it all comes down to fight or flight, doesn't it? And my premise is that when you are in your house, you are over the finish line. Okay? There is nowhere left to run. And especially if you have kids, elderly family members, what are you supposed to do? Rouse them all out of bed and run out the back door. So at this point, you are obligated to use what I think is any means necessary, yes, even lethal force, to protect you and your loved ones. And no, there shouldn't be any charges, because one of the biggest problems, Joe, they say unreasonable force, unnecessary force. Define it. Nobody can. Isn't this a catch-22 we're in?
It really is. And it really puts people in a predicament where, they want to protect their families. They want to be able to But this fear of, it's usually the person that it's happening to is the one that gets in trouble or the one that gets arrested. So, all this fear that they've been pushing, it makes people, kind of helpless and like, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't type of situation. But I could tell you this, I mean, if someone were to break into my house where I have my family, I have my 2 kids, I also have a massive dog waiting for them at the door, they may get in, but they probably won't be leaving. And that's an absolute fact. And basically, they were never there.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I just look at today's front cover of the Toronto Sun. I don't know if you can read it. The headline is, "Comply with this." And this isn't some just Joe Blow with a Louisville slugger. That is Toronto councillor Brad Bradford, who says that he sleeps with this baseball bat under his bed, and everyone in his circle practically that he knows has some sort of a weapon, because I don't think we can depend on cops. And then when we do have them arrive, you get charged. And one last point I want to make, folks, it's the inconsistency. 4 years ago, there was a man in Red Deer that came to his home and found out it had been broken into. And the home invader, if you can imagine, was asleep in his bed, kind of like a dark version of Goldilocks. So he got his shotgun, he went, woke up the man, and he said, "I've called police, stay where you are." At first he complied, then he changed his mind. A scuffle ensued. He shot him dead. And Red Deer RCMP did not lay a single charge. Why is it he gets off scot-free? And he was in a situation where, in theory, he could have run away. But Jeremy McDonald in Lindsay, he had no choice at 3:20 in the morning with a guy with a crossbow. Let me go quickly around the horn here. Marc Patrone, why is there such inconsistency in our laws when it comes to so-called unreasonable force?
Because we need clarity in the law, and we really don't have it. It's kind of up to the cops to decide whether or not you used excess force. According to them, that happened in the Lindsay case. And, they're just too vague in terms of what the judges are allowed to look at and interpret. So I'm with Pierre Poilievre on this one. Let's have absolute clarity around what the law says. Personally, I think if you're in somebody else's house, the benefit of the doubt needs to go to the homeowner. If the homeowner say, "I used as much force as I thought was necessary," then I think you go with his or her word. Yeah. Okay, you say, "You know what? You're the homeowner here. You were the one who was intruded upon. The criminal was in your space. It was your call." Yep. That's what I think they should decide. That's the way I think it goes. We first say, "What did you do?" And then we think, okay, well, you felt you took as much force as you felt was necessary at the time. Yep. And that's what I think you go with. You believe the homeowner, in my opinion.
And well, Mark, it's not your opinion. I would venture a guess. You speak for 99.99% of Canadians, and the 0.01% are typically liberals living in gated communities with security. And speaking of which, Sue-Ann, I'm getting really tired of Doug Ford, going, something ought to be done about this. I'll tell you, by golly. And he's talking about, if that happened to me like it happened to Jeremy McDonald, he'd do whatever he can to defend him and his family. Well, a week and a half ago, my cameraman and I went out to his house, not to harass him, but just to get a lay of the land. Do you know, Sue-Ann, he's got 2 Toronto Police Service SUVs with armed police officers in the driveway 24/7. So I'm sorry, Dougie, you're never going to be in a position to get your hands dirty. And doesn't that speak of the hypocrisy that it's one law for thee, one law for me? If you're part of the elite, you are going to go to bed with not a care in the world. And by the way, I'm happy that Doug Ford and his family are protected. Why can't we have the same protection?
Well, you read my mind, David, which is a very scary thing. Unless you're in the situation, as I have been twice, where I've been attacked and assaulted, and you have to think very quickly, and your instinct is to fight back, which I did both times. And, and then I had to deal with the court system. But unless you're in the situation, I'm sorry, these politicians have no idea what it's like, no idea what you're thinking. The first time I thought I was going to be killed, and I nearly was. And, so I'm sorry, I have no patience for any of them. As he talks about why he's pouring Crown Royal on the sidewalk or whatever he did, I mean, like, these people are weak buffoons, all of them.
Yeah, and Joe, I mean, when Doug Ford says, "Oh, there ought to be a law, somebody ought to do something, whether it's a home invasion or massive theft at the LCBO," Doug, you are the premier and you have a supermajority government. What's with the charade of all talk, like he's the common man suffering like the rest of us, when clearly that's not the case?
Well, let's just put it out there. I mean, he's a liberal in a blue suit, and that's what he is. Just like Tim Houston in Nova Scotia, they're both identical, having little get-togethers with Chrystia Freeland in their backyard. I mean, and it's very obvious. He's totally against Pierre, and at the end of the day, he's just not conservative. So you would expect the way he acts out of a liberal, and he's showing that in full color right now.
I couldn't agree with you more, Joe. I mean, so many people, myself included, always thought that Doug Ford and the dearly departed Rob Ford were two peas in a pod. Nothing could be more further from the truth than that. Rob was sincere. He meant what he said, and he said what he meant. And like you said, Doug Ford is a conservative in name only, and man, his act is really getting tired big time. Folks, still on the crime beat, why don't we talk about Poilievre reacting to, and you know what? I almost get choked up because I can't imagine the horror that this toddler went through. It was a person. We don't know if it's a he, she, a him, her, an it, a z, zer, but allegedly a gender fluid, transgender. I can't keep track of all this nonsense. And well, first of all, it wasn't his first offense. There's the first thing that's wrong, given the way the Liberals treat violent criminals here. Yeah, they'll throw the book at a Saskatchewan duck hunter to take away his rifle, but gangbangers, you're in and out the same day. Let's see how Poilievre reacted to this recent tragedy of a toddler. Well, they say here being sexually assaulted. Let's cut to the chase. That toddler was raped. So let's make no bones about it. Mr. Poilievre?
So despite the big show, he's not only done nothing, he's made it worse. On crime, he made a big show about how he was going to address the liberal crime crisis. Well, what has he done? He's not changed a single liberal law. He has done nothing. It has been a show about nothing in Mr. Carney's government, but unfortunately it has been a horror show in our communities. Stories of little children being viciously and appallingly assaulted in their own homes by burglars who are out on release. Another horrific tragedy today that we just learned about, where innocent First Nations are the victims. And horrendous case of a father losing his life coming to the defense of his children who witnessed his death. These are the stories that Marc Carney's Liberals have made more common through their catch and release criminal justice system. Even Liberal mayors are turning on the Carney government and saying, what the hell is taking you so long? Our streets are being overtaken by gangsters and criminals. And Marc Carney has put on a big show about nothing. He has done absolutely nothing. His minister even attacked me for saying that people should be allowed to defend themselves in their homes. He said that it isn't the Wild West. I'm sorry, but unfortunately, after 10 years of liberal laws, it is the Wild West out there. People are feeling afraid, seniors afraid to go outside, parents afraid to let their children play alone, Canadians afraid their car might be stolen. Drugs are killing a record number of our people, and Marc Carney has put on a big show about nothing.
So, Mark, let's start with you again. the alleged rapist is a reprobate by the name of Daniel Senecal, but now he goes by the name Danny, the feminine spelling, D-A-N-I. He's clearly male. We know he's male because he has a penis. That's what he used to rape the toddler, allegedly. And get a load of this. We were just tipped off yesterday, and we're going to be going to Welland to track down where this guy is. He'll still be in a cell. But he is now, look at that picture. Does that look even remotely female? But guess what? He identifies as female, so he's being treated as a female. He's in a segregated cell. He has female police officers strip searching him. Mark, this is a farce. I don't think we're a serious country anymore when you have somebody alleged of raping a toddler again, claiming he's a woman, and we take his word for it? What the hell is going on?
Yeah, they need to change these rules because they're absolutely outrageous. We've seen a slew of rapes inside the prison system, pregnancies, because somebody claims to be a woman when they are obviously not, and yet they get into these female facilities and they wreak havoc. And so that's an issue. But you have to ask yourself, why are the Liberals doing this? I mean, isn't it a no-brainer that their laws, their open door, revolving door bail policies are leading to an increase in crime? I look for reasons and think anybody would tell you that when you let reprobates back onto the streets, that you're going to get more crime. I mean, that is basic common sense, and yet they continue to do it. Why? The only reason I can think of is that they're using crime. They are exploiting the explosion in crime that they are creating to go after legal firearms. They desperately want to take every last pea shooter off the street that's used by a legal firearms owner, right? Those are the real targets, not the illegal firearms. Yeah. They want to target anybody who's got a firearm legally and continues to use that firearm legally in Canada. That's really what they're targeting. And so I think that they allow crime to ramp up because their policies are encouraging more of it. And at the end of the day, they'll use that as a pretext to go after legal firearms owners. That's my personal view of it. Obviously, they're not going to admit to it, but that's the only real reason I can think of that they are allowing this travesty to happen.
I think you're right, Mark. I think these tragedies give reasons for the Liberals to make the case for more gun control, more gun laws, more gun grabs, not connecting the dots. And that would be, if you're a bad guy, you don't follow the law, right? You're penalizing the honest, law-abiding, tax-paying gun owners of Canada. Absolutely insane. Sue-Ann, I want to talk about this whole gender identification nonsense. To Mark's point, I believe the stat is, what a shocker, what a coincidence. I believe that more than 80% of so-called trans women, this is a man pretending to be a woman, and you don't even need the surgery or the hormones or anything. You just say, I'm a chick, good enough for the federal government. Well, more than 80% are in the slammer for, guess what? Sex assault cases. So you're putting, I think, the fox in the chicken coop to prey on other female prisoners. I know from Heather Mason of Cosbar, a former prisoner herself at the Kitchener facility for female prisoners. It's so bad that even if the guy is 300 pounds and has a beard, but Bubba now goes by the name Betty, if you dare misgender him, you are going to be penalized, and it ranges from having your dessert taken away or 1 day of solitary. Sue-Ann, this is madness. How did we get here?
Well, this is 10 years of woke policies by Justin Trudeau. And we can blame Mark Carney. He's just a more ineffective and more evil version, and probably smarter in some ways, manipulative version of Justin Trudeau. But this is what's happened. We've got woke judges. We've got DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. We've got critical race theory. We've got oppressors and oppressed. So believe it or not, Dave, I'm oppressor. I'm an oppressor. Even though I'm a gay woman married to another woman, I'm an oppressor because I'm Jewish and I'm white.
Yeah.
So there's been this case of oppression Olympics that I don't actually necessarily totally agree with, Mark. I think it's all these woke policies that make blacks transgendered, whether they're really transgendered. And I think a lot of these men have a fetish. They want to dress as women. I've seen it in the States. They want to dress as women, but they're not really women. They don't really identify, but it's like a kick because they don't have this stuff surgically removed. I actually talked to a transgendered female, a man who had changed to a female many years ago, who did the whole thing, and he is disgusted with the number of people who say they identify as women these days. So it's the government has enabled this. Our health organizations have enabled it. Our policies have enabled it.
No, I think you're right too, Sue-Ann. And Joe, to Sue-Ann's point, I mean, every once in a while I'll get some radical person go, why do you hate trans people? I don't. If you want to go through life pretending you're the other sex and you're living in suburbia and you're going about your own business, hey, being a freedom absolutist, knock yourself out. However, when you cross the line, and it's always trans women, men identifying as women, and you're going into female change rooms, female bathrooms, competing in female sports, going to female shelters, going into female prisons, you are adversely affecting the lives of real women, and we should call it out. But I'll tell you, Joe, under Marc Carney, I don't see what I call transanity ending anytime soon. He's got a daughter that pretends she's a he right now. So there you go. The proof is in the pudding.
Well, I mean, he said he was going to continue with these woke policies right off the get-go, right? And I always say that, if you look back before Justin Trudeau, all these, like the trans topic, it wasn't an issue. People would stay to themselves. They would, if they love, like Sue said, it's their kick, they would keep it at home. But now what Justin Trudeau has done and what Marc Carney is continuing to do is just push it down everyone's throat, making it like so that everyone in Canada has to, bow down. We have to appreciate them. We have to, put them on a high totem pole. And then you got regular Canadian citizens that look at the situation and to someone with common sense, this is mental illness.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm with you. And what are we doing? We're rewarding mental illness. If Mr. Senecal is found guilty of this heinous crime, which is very likely from what I understand, his penalty is going to be serving a prison term with other females, potential victims. This is absolute madness. And but it looks like wokeism trumps everything, including common sense and justice. It's absolutely despicable. Why don't we switch gears, guys? Another red hot issue these days, immigration. And of course, if you criticize it, and I know, Joe, you know what I'm talking about, you're a racist, a white supremacist, which, by the way, is nonsense. We get so much feedback from racialized communities saying, I don't like these cats coming into the country. I came here decades ago. I went through legally. You're not paying attention to what you're letting in. And the numbers, too, which are ridiculous. Let's again throw to Pierre Poilievre at yesterday's presser, slamming Carney for this mass migration that we're dealing with.
Immigration. Mr. Carney put on a big show that he was going to address liberal immigration. What has he done? He's kept Justin Trudeau's numbers. He is bringing in a record number of temporary foreign workers to take the jobs of Canadians. And yesterday, he made an appalling comment. He was asked about my proposal to get rid of the temporary foreign worker program. And what did he say? He said, he's talked to business lobbyists, corporate lobbyists, and they assure him they would like to continue to bring in low-wage labor from poor countries. Of course they would, Mr. Carney. Of course they want your corporate lobbyist friends and your other elites want to stuff their pockets by shutting hardworking Canadians out of jobs and giving those jobs to temporary foreign workers. You are not supposed to be working for corporate lobbyists. You're supposed to be working for Canadian workers. And that is why we will be pushing extra hard this fall, to put an end to the temporary foreign worker program, so we have Canadian jobs for Canadian workers. And we want those Canadian workers to be able to drive to work in the car of their choice.
You know, Marc, when I look at Marc Carney's words that Pierre Poilievre was analyzing, I think the translation is this: if it's good for Brookfield Asset Management, it's good for Canada. Now, sit down, shut up, and know your role. What say you, my friend?
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. What's good for Brookfield, though, is what's good for Marc Carney. Because we know that Marc Carney has all sorts of stock options, millions of dollars in stock options in Brookfield. He stands to benefit from what's good for Brookfield. And so they love cheap labor, and they don't seem to care that it has an impact on other folks who can't get jobs. And the other thing that I've been talking about is some of the rhetoric coming from the left. You say, well, if you go down that road, Pierre Poilievre and Michelle Rempel-Garner, then you are basically a racist. That's a dog whistle. It's a dog whistle to the racist element, most base element in Canada, because, of course, you're equating the immigrants, all these workers coming into Canada, with their skin color. Well, guess what? You're bringing in people of all kinds of color. It's not a racial thing at all. It's the fact that non-citizens, in many cases, sadly, are going to the front of the line in terms of jobs. And the idea that a lot of Canadians won't work at those jobs, I don't buy that at all.
No.
You pay a decent wage, like at Booster Juice over there, they're making, what, $35 an hour? There are plenty of Canadians that will take those jobs. And by the way, even the CBC now is offering jobs, giving jobs to temporary foreign workers. Canadian citizens need not apply, David.
Unbelievable. Sue-Ann, again to that point, I mean, Brookfield Asset Management, it has about $1 trillion with a T in assets. It was moved under Carney's reign, and he was caught lying about that, from Toronto to New York. That's where their head office is. And let's not forget Mr. Carney himself. I understand the lion's share of his assets in the blind trust are U.S. based. So what's good for the U.S., even to Canada's detriment, I think that's good for Brookfield. That's good for Marc Carney. End of discussion. What say you?
All I will say is I knew he'd be a disaster, and I cannot believe that he was voted in. I mean, on so many fronts, whether it's elbows down, trying to negotiate the tariffs, which he hasn't done at all, and his anti-Semitism, clear anti-Semitism, identifying with Muslim values. How do I dare say this stuff? Because I've been accused of being racist, Islamophobic, inhumane. It goes on and on. But I'm going to say right here on your show that I'm not going to be intimidated by those words anymore. No more. You can call me whatever you want. I am going to be outspoken. I'm going to say how I feel, and I'm going to speak the truth.
100%, Sue-Ann. And, well, to quote a line from a famous movie, there's a lot of people out there that just can't handle the truth. And isn't that the very definition of political correctness? If what you're saying is true, but it's offensive, then you must be shut down. We have the added element now of cancel culture to ensure contrarian voices are shut down. Now, Joe, I think this is right in your wheelhouse. You're having your demonstration at Christie Pitts on September 13th. There will I'm sure there's going to be people there that aren't going to shut you down with words, but they're going to try to get away with violence. By the way, do you have any idea on your side of the equation how many people are coming to the Christie Pitts demonstration in Toronto to take a stand against this out-of-control immigration?
Well, first off, I think out of the four events I've thrown, this is definitely going to be the biggest one. the reason why I think that is because, this topic is resonating with Canadians now. They see that immigration is a direct correlation to almost every issue in Canada at this point in time, whether it be housing, whether it be strain on our healthcare systems. I mean, you walk into any walk-in clinic and you don't see Canadians sitting there. It's rammed with immigrants. And people they've had enough. And I have my ear to the street. A big account on Instagram, straight out of the 6th, did a poll. Will you be attending? And it had close to almost 10,000 responses, and roughly around 70% of them said they were going to be attending. I've been doing a massive push on social media. I did a YouTube video showing the decay of Toronto with local YouTuber Gavin Barry. Young kid, does great work, and you should go check that out. But this situation should be at the forefront of everybody's mind. It is affecting everybody, and it also comes down to our identity and culture being disrupted.
Joe, you're so right. And it's not conjecture about how the culture is being changed. I go back to June. The National Post had a superb, albeit very disheartening story headlined, "The Death of the Summer Job." And, it used to be a rite of passage. You're a high schooler, you got summer off, you're going to get a part-time job or a full-time job through summer while you're on summer vacation. And it's gone. It's temporary foreign workers that are having those jobs now. Now, guys, we're out of racetrack, but I just want to go quickly around the horn about where we can find you. Mr. Patrone, you have a new time slot at Saga 960. Where can our viewers tune in to hear your excellent radio show? And folks, I mean it. Marc Patrone, he doesn't hold back. There are so many people on the air in Toronto. I'll use the Dick Beddoes phrase here. If they don't get off the air soon, I'm going to stop breathing it. That's not the case with Marc Patrone. Marc, where can we find you?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the praise. High praise indeed. And by the way, I've had all three of you as guests on my show, and you're a big part of what I do, because without you, hey, it's me yammering on. So thank you for being guests in the past, and please come back real soon. So it's 960 on your dial in the GTA, and if you're outside of Toronto, then you can also stream us live at saga960am.ca. That's probably your best bet. You can stream us live 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, and don't forget to tune in on Friday, 8 to 11. The Greg Carrasco Show is on, and he is a champion as well. Thank you so much, Marc. Sue-Ann Levy, it is Juno News, I assume, where our viewers can read your pithy prose.
And, the odd appearance with Dave Menzies as we get thrown out of various and sundry events, or thrown off the steps of the TDSB. There's more to come, Dave. I've got some more stuff for you. So, yeah.
I can't wait. Well, Sue-Ann, never let it be said I don't show a lady an exciting time while out on a date. Usually by law enforcement frog marching us off to the sidewalk for unbelievable reasons. So,
in our case, it was a rabbi.
Yes. Oh, we have a follow-up coming next week about that rabbi, folks. You are not going to believe it. Fasten your seatbelts for that story. Joe, how do our viewers find out about all the nitty-gritty details about your big demonstration next Saturday at Christie Pitts in downtown Toronto?
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm really active on my Instagram, PuckDaddy93. Also on X, PuckDaddy93. If you want to check me out on TikTok, it's official Puck Daddy. I guess you guys get that I like hockey, and I'm a big hockey dad with that handle, eh? But yes, that's where you can find me. I do have a channel on YouTube, also by PuckDaddy93. So come check it out. All the details will be there. If you want to reach out, I am looking for speakers On that note, I will have Lisa Robinson, who will be speaking at the event with other people that I have kind of in the waiting right now. I'm just waiting to confirm with them. So I'm really trying to make this event professional, safe, clean, family friendly, and so that we can spread our message and our presence is felt, because for over a year and a half now, our streets have been plagued with, that famous word, Hamas holes.
And Joe, have you reached out to the police? I'm not worried about what your speakers and your supporters are going to do. I'm worried about the Antifa types. Will there be a police presence there?
Well, for the last 3 events, I've had a police presence, taking, the keen eye on the people that are in my group. So I would assume that they would do the same. This will also expose kind of where the police are at this point, the 2-tiered system in our country. And I think the 13th is going to show people's true colors on that day.
It's going to be another test. We still back the blue here. I love the men and women in uniform doing a good role. It's the brass that I have a problem with, which is becoming increasingly politicized. Well, let's hope for the best and plan for the worst, I suppose. So, Marc Patrone, Sue-Ann Levy, Joe Anidjar, thank you so much. You were all wonderful. I hope you come back soon. I have to do a remote interview with Drea Humphrey, stranded on an ostrich farm of all places. So thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, and folks, don't go away. The aforementioned Drea Humphrey, we're going to make contact with her about something that I think is downright scandalous, something that isn't receiving the kind of mainstream media attention it should be. But then again, the federal government is behind this, so one doesn't want to bite the hand that feeds. So I'll just check. Super producer Olivia, do we have Drea on the other end? As we make contact, please check out these ads. We'll see you on the other side.
Listen up, Calgary. Our Rebel News 10th birthday bash is almost here, and we want you there. But early bird ticket sales end this Monday night at midnight. After that, prices go up, no exceptions. So lock in your spot now for an unforgettable night of fun, food, free speech, and music. And don't worry, Toronto, we didn't forget about you. We've got a birthday bash coming your way in October. Head on over to happybirthdayrebel.com. Grab your tickets today before the deadline passes you by.
And folks, as promised, I am now joined by the delightful Drea Humphrey. Not exactly in the middle of nowhere, maybe the right side of nowhere, but in a really, really remote place filled with hundreds of very special birds. Drea, please inform our audience, what is the latest on those precious ostriches?
Well, first, I'll let everybody have a look at them. They're just as curious about us as the people who come here to see them are about them. And they've got their prehistoric feet, their little raptor feet and everything like that. But the latest, or I'll start with, in case nobody knows the story, as there was someone who just came here the other day who hadn't heard anything up until just recently. And that is, behind me is just a small section of a herd of 400 healthy ostriches. As of today, they've been healthy for 234 days. And the farmers here have been saying, why is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency going to cull them? Especially when they're not for human consumption. Instead, their eggs were being used as part of research to fight viruses with therapeutics. So not the mRNA vaccine technology that Big Pharma is working on to address the avian flu. And now that they have the avian flu, the farmers, scientists, politicians in Canada, and the health officials from the US are all saying, wait, why would you slaughter this herd when now they have the avian flu and we can find a better option than mass culling? And they want to actually partner with Canada, the NIH, the FDA, the head of Medicare, which is Dr. Oz, and of course, Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. all want to lock arms with Canada with our so-called elbows up.
Yeah.
And here any day, the CFIA can come to kill these animals.
Yeah, it is getting very high profile attention. Drea, what I want you to spend some time on is, what is the unspoken reason the federal government is hell-bent to take out, well, animals that are not only healthy, they're harmless. Yet this is a clear and present danger to, you know, I mean, I don't even know how many people live in that area of British Columbia you're in. But again, what is the real rationale why Ottawa wants these birds dead?
Well, that's the thing. These non-poultry birds are in their own zone, which is another reason to leave them the heck alone. I actually just put my last report at savetheostriches.com, where you can find all of the reports, was about what you're asking. Why? Why on earth would this still be happening when it's now become a scientific farming freedom, food freedom, and economic freedom issue? And I think for myself, when I weigh in on that issue, I think it's two things. The first thing is that if they stop their policy, if the CFIA changes their policy because farmers say so, then they're worried about, well, what about the other farmers? So in British Columbia alone, in the last 3 years, they have mass culled 9 million birds in the name of avian flu. Well, here's the thing. These birds are catching this from the wild. Why are we not seeing wild birds dying at mass because they've got the avian flu? Well, that's because they have immunity, just like these birds behind me, and they're passing that on to their offspring. But what we're doing with our stamp out policy, which is based out of the World Health Organization, is as soon as these birds get sick, we're killing them and the survivors. So the policy needs to change so that they can have their offspring, and in this case, further research. And then the other thing is, and I'll go down conspiracy land, is when you slaughter these birds, you're slaughtering the science that competes with Big Pharma. So when we're saying, hey, wait, they're healthy, but also we can find a better way to manage this virus, I don't think that's a very attracting offer for Canada.
You know, that is absolutely fascinating, especially the Big Pharma part. But if what you say is correct, if CFIA is worried about losing face, if you will, Drea, why can't they just say, upon further reflection, we're not going to go ahead with the call. It's off. We made a mistake. Contrary to what they might think, the public is very forgiving. If you are sincerely apologizing, or if you're reversing course for the right reasons, people aren't going to criticize them. They're going to applaud. So the idea that these federal bureaucrats are worried about losing face, and that means they're going to kill hundreds of ostriches to keep up appearances, I think that's gross.
Well, you're right. This is nonpartisan. Even Premier David Eby came on record saying he's not happy with how the agency is behaving. I'm just turning around so you can see some of the people who are camping out behind me. The field goes very far. So you're right. Nobody's going to be mad if the agency says, you know what, we've looked deeper, and this is a unique situation. And again, I say these are not poultry, so they have an easy out. They could have just said these birds, which is true, which is the science, they don't catch the virus like chickens. When it hits a chicken flock, it really does run through all of them very fast. They had about 470 birds, and 69 of them did die last year, and they were almost all the young ones, which also indicated that the older ones, these guys can live for, I think, over 60 years. They've had some for 35 years, that they have already had immunity of some sort to this virus. So nobody's going to be mad. Everybody's going to be happy. Everybody's going to be on the same page. But in addition to not going ahead and doing that, which they have the ability to do so in that agency, they're saying, no, we're not going to go and test those birds. And in fact, if the farmers test the birds, and this is what the mainstream media misses most of the time, there's some that will report it, but if the farmers test the birds, they face jail time. They face a huge penalty. If they, on their own money, go there and test these birds and tell the world that they're healthy, which we all know they are, they go to jail.
Unbelievable. You know, Andrea, I just wanted to weigh in on, I guess, the whole animal husbandry issue in Canada, because, as I said, healthy and harmless birds, we got to slaughter them. In downtown Toronto, and Lincoln J and I chronicled this going back to May, there is a coyote problem. We have had pets snatched in front of their owners. One almost got away with a toddler, except for his screaming mother scaring it away. And the city's response, oh, it's not to cull them, it's to put up warning signs. I'm not making this up. Like, be on the lookout for Wile E. Coyote. He means business. There's only one way to deal with a coyote population out of control. And I've talked to people in the animal world. You have to, unfortunately, cull them. You're not allowed to move them more than 900 meters. Don't even get me started with that. So why is it that a dangerous animal, potentially dangerous animal in downtown Toronto, oh, you know what, let's learn to live with our neighbors. They actually put that on one of the city signs until they took it down. They got international ridicule of that. But let's live with these carnivores and hope for the best. And meanwhile, these ostriches have to be slaughtered. I'm aghast, Drea. I can't figure this out.
Well, you know, none of it sounds surprising anymore. They told us to leave our keys out in case there's going to be a robber. Now they're telling us if someone breaks in your home, wants to, you know, God forbid, rape your child, just comply, you know, don't fight back. So none of it in Clown Canada is really surprising. I live in a state of shocked but not surprised. That's what's happening with this situation as well. The coyote issue you're describing sounds very like everyday life in British Columbia, at least where I live, to be honest. That the same thing happens out where I live, where people lose their small dogs and their small animals to coyotes, and even, you know, they'll advance at smaller kids. So I don't know if you guys have it worse for us or we're just used to. I mean, I've had a cougar on my lawn. There's a bear at my door like every 2 weeks. Thankfully, my dog, he grunts when there's a bear, so we know. So I don't know. Maybe you city slickers are just not used to it yet.
Last month I had a cougar on my lawn. I think she was over 50. Anyway, Drea, here's the big question. When will this crackdown, if it occurs, and I don't know if the CFIA is bluffing, but when is it going to happen? Is it a matter, I'm just looking at the optics, I'm looking at those demonstrators, I'm looking at you there being the witness to what could be an atrocity, I think. Is it a matter of a siege mentality? We're going to wait these people out. In winter, it's going to get a whole of a heck of a lot colder. And that's when we'll move in, perhaps under cover of the night. What is your theory there, Drea?
Well, first, I'd like to say that this farm has had little miracle after little miracle. that has resulted in these birds being alive in the first place. Okay, so there has been many opportunities for the CFI to come in, but each time they have to regroup, they have to find people. One example was the regional district nearby. After the farmers went there and pled, please don't let them kill these healthy animals, after they got a tip that that's where they were going to dispose in the landfill. The regional district unanimously voted and said, no, we're not going to take these carcasses unless you test them, unless you test the animals, which is exactly what the farmers are asking. And so that was a setback that allowed them to get into the next level of legal recourse, which was dismissed because the policy itself isn't illegal. The policy is just crap, right? Yeah. So I think that's what we're seeing happening right now. There is no reason that the CFIA shouldn't have been able to come and cull these birds. That's why I came back, because they got a credible tip saying that a task force was being put together. So when I hear that, I think that's police to come assist whoever the CFIA is hired. That takes some time, but there has got to be a sense of urgency, since there have been two legal avenues, the last being in the Federal Court of Appeal. And then they know these farmers, and that's the good news that I have to share. We're going to try to get a Supreme Court, albeit slim, their chances at succeeding, because it was a unanimous dismissal in the lower court. So yesterday, their lawyer did file for an appeal. And so if we hear that both parties are going to be able to put submissions forward, meaning the judge hasn't responded to that filing yet, so anything could happen. But if we do hear that the judge says, okay, both sides, you need to submit by that date, then we know there's a few more days. And I think what the farm is hoping is that the international pressure, the grassroots pressure, that it just continues to get so thick that the CFIA says, okay, there's too many people on this. I think that's what they're hoping. But it really is a miracle that they're alive in the first place for 233 days beyond the call order, which was in place last year.
Yeah. Well, Drea, I really hope this story does have a happy ending. And I can tell you something you said, they've struck a task force. Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know about Canada under these Liberals? How about a task force to get shovels in the ground to build housing in Canada? How about a task force to get crime eliminated from the streets? Well, you don't even need a task force. You just have to enforce sentences. Oh, no. A problem that doesn't exist. That's where we have to give our priorities to. Unbelievable. Drea, last word goes to you on all things ostriches.
Well, the last words is thank you for everybody who's been a part of making the exposure of this injustice happen. I really think that if these birds survive, so does so much that's important to Canada. Again, farming, food sovereignty, the ability for you to have what food you want on your table, scientific, enough of Big Pharma having a monopoly over what type of science we get access to. And if Canada really wants to put its economy first, it would make sense to partner with this BC-based flock, with Japan, with the US, like they're wanting to. So thank you for everybody who has gone to savetheostriches.com and donated. I think we're still not broken the cost for me to basically live here in this camper van with the Starlink and everything. But if you could continue to chip in a little bit to help us be able to have our boots on the ground in case they do roll up, I'm the only news here. So if you guys want to know what's happening, please continue donating at savetheostriches.com. And also we have set up there a one-click email. You go in there, you can use what I wrote, or you can write respectfully what you'd like to say. And within a click, you will fire off your demand for these birds to survive in just seconds. So it's so easy, and it will go to all of the right people, including Marc Carney. So savetheostriches.com, and thank you for everybody doing that.
Well, there you have it, Drea. I got to tell you, the last 15 minutes, ostriches, coyotes, cougars. I feel like I'm co-hosting Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. People of a certain vintage will get that reference. I know you're too young. But Drea, you are doing wonderful work on the ground. As you mentioned, you're the only reporter there. That speaks very poorly of the mainstream media. I think this is an overlooked, underreported story, especially given the high-profile attention it is receiving south of the border. Well, I guess when it comes to the mainstream media, they get funded by the federal government, so don't want to bite the hand that feeds, I suppose. Drea, you have a wonderful weekend, and I know you'll be the first to break the news, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, regarding the ostriches. Thank you so much.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. And that was Drea Humphrey in Edgewood, British Columbia. And folks, before we do sign off, we do have a super chat. It is from Alberta Dawn. You know, this is why I love my super producers, Olivia and Efren. They know I'm too much of a caveman to deal with this little laptop here. So they made an old-fashioned printout of the super chat that I can get my hands around. So Alberta Dawn gives $5. Thank you so much for that donation. My wife and I are seniors, and I am an avid sport shooter. Apparently, in the case of a break-in, I am to comply with the criminals. Best case is no injuries, but a lot of stolen firearms on the street. And you know, Alberta Dawn, I take it by your handle. You do live in Alberta. I will defer to the amazing insight of your wonderful premier, Danielle Smith. Hey, if you don't want to get hurt, don't break into somebody's house in the middle of the night. And when you do, I'm sorry, it's not on us, the law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. The criminal is the author of his or her own misfortune. So there you go. And I don't believe we have any more super chats. Are we good? We have another one. That's good. I'm not complaining. And I'm just looking for it. See, they didn't. All right. I've got to go into, can you make that bigger? See, I think my staff thinks I'm Clark Kent, you know, but here we go. This is from Cecily Bardot. I hope I got that right. $20. Thank you so much, Cecily. Ladies and gentlemen, I miss most of the week, but the station every week gets more. The situation every week gets more dire. We need a strong new government. Oh boy, do we ever. You know, Cecily, and I'm not trying to be funny here, I give this country one more election. We don't know when the next election will be. There's all kinds of rumors of a winter election next year. It worked for Doug Ford in Ontario, and Carney seems to be obsessive about getting a majority government. Or maybe we play out the string and we have an election in 2029. Jeez, seems so far away. But I really think if these liberals are rewarded for all the misgovernance, for all the scandals, for all the broken promises, I don't see a future for me nor my family in this country. Now, people are saying, oh, what's wrong with you, Menzies? You're giving up on Canada? No, Canada is giving up on me and giving up on so many other Canadians. And I can tell you, folks, there's already an exodus on. I know Canadians that have moved to Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama, and they love it. They're not coming back. So, like I said, I give it one more election. As I said earlier, we pray for the best we hope for the best and plan for the worst. That's what I'm trying to say. Well, that was a heck of a show, folks. I hope you agreed. Those were excellent guests we had. And Drea chiming in from beautiful BC with an update. And I guess if those ostriches are still alive, well, it is good news. We will be back next week. I'll be on assignment, actually in Welland, looking for that trans woman who, raped a toddler. And hopefully something will come of that. So there'll be 2 other Rebel personalities to be named at a later date for Monday. But I will be here next Friday, as usual. In the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Big news, Rebel News now has premium memberships on X, Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism alive and strong.